Good, beautiful Sunday evening, Palm Sunday. Prime time Sunday night lineup here on KOFO 1220 1037. It is time for Boomer Takes with Pete and Jake. I'm John Jacobson with Dr. Peter W. Tinsman, MD. Sean Torres, our engineer par excellence on the East Central Plains of Kansas, where we are your country music giant, your USA Radio Network affiliate. And folks, we are now the home and away voice of your Kansas City Royals with games already under the belt. Opening day on Friday, and Auburn University was the capital of baseball in academia as Dr. Andy Hazuka had his 29th annual Baseball in Literature and Culture Conference here on the campus. We had professors and baseball aficionados from all over the nation coming in to present papers. I'll tell you what I presented on perhaps later. It did involve the culture and American television, but this is radio, so we want to welcome in everybody. Pete Tinsman's from our Florida base. Pete, where might they be listening in from your territory there?
Lee County and Collier County in Southwest Florida. Fort Myers and Naples, Video Springs area.
My folks used to live there, obviously. And I remember those counties from election night, especially Collier County was a big pivotal swing county in Florida. We've got folks up here listening in. And guys, this show is always on podcast. You can listen to us anywhere in the world, live on KOFO.com as well. But want to give a shout out. The legislature is still meeting in Topeka. The Rock Chalk Jayhawk fans are bummed, but they are still rabid fans up there in Lawrence. We're emanating from Ottawa and going out all the way to the Kansas City suburbs as well. Thanks for joining us on this beautiful Palm Sunday. That's my favorite time of year. Spring is here. We're arcing toward Easter. We have more than 12 hours of daylight now. And Pete, it's always great to be with you. This widening audience of ours, we are now we're in the second spot now for the Sunday night lineup, right after the Jacobson Report sports review. We are it, and we're two boomers. We're dads, we're grandpas, right, Pete?
That's exactly right, John. I can't believe we're not 21 years old anymore.
I can't either because, I got to admit, it really hit me hard. Chuck Norris's death hit me hard, Pete, because right around the time that you got married and I got married, we were in each other's weddings, and it was the late 80s. Chuck Norris had just started Walker, Texas Ranger.
Wow.
I can't believe he's gone. And so many, Neil Sedaka, to whom Deb and I did our first slow dance at the Carter Lake Kegger there in Council Bluffs. You might have even been there that night.
I know I was there that night.
What was great, though, is instead of riding home with you guys, I made a quick move on Deborah Slavin, her last name at the time, good Irish girl that she was. She came and drove to the dance with a boy from Creighton Prep. And she says, oh, he's just a friend. And I knew for a fact that guy didn't want to just be a friend. So I asked if she could drop me off at 33rd and California there, but I made sure she dropped him off first, see. And that was my brilliant ploy. I didn't ride home with you guys, but I made sure she kicked him out of the car. He never got back in that car ever. I rode shotgun for the rest of that duration, Pete.
And your plan worked, John. Your plan worked.
It worked. I learned a lot from Tinsman. So happy birthday to your bride today, the lovely and gracious and fair Heather.
Well, thank you very much.
Pete, the other thing is, Dash Crofts died from Seals and Crofts. And I love that group as a high schooler. They did Summer Breeze and Closer to You. And what I really admired about those guys, after Roe versus Wade, they bucked against the music and Hollywood industry, and they wrote a pro-life song called Unborn Child. It cost them somewhat in their careers. But man, those guys were the real deal. They were very pro-life. They were very good guys. Rest in peace to Dash Crofts. So, Pete, I'm feeling my age. And, I keep talking to my class about statistics. And male life expectancy in the U.S. is 76.5 years. I told them that if I follow actuarial science, I'm like putting on the 15th green or teeing off on the 16th right now if I'm playing Augusta. And I tell my kids, you guys are teeing off on 4 maybe. You got your whole lives ahead of you, You can survived several economic recessions and market crashes. So, Pete, I want to talk a little bit more about health today. We hammered that very well last week, but I want to go into it because, Pete, as we talked, there are these examples. There are these guys like William Shatner at 95, who I think is signing autographs this week in Kansas City. He's going to be in the Northeast in a couple of weeks signing autographs. He's going to be in Vegas for the 60th anniversary signing autographs. I've watched his gait. He walks without a walker. He walks without a cane. He's steady on his feet. He will take one of those motorized scooters like Mrs. B did at NFM when we were shopping Customer. But that's like at a giant convention hall where he's got to go like 300 yards to go to his table. Yeah. But I mean, he just came out of shoulder repair surgery and he's very vigorous and out. So I want to talk a little bit today, and I want to lead off with this. There's a CNN article by Jen Christensen that was very interesting. I'm going to just lead with this. Attitude is everything. Researchers saw this trend in the new study published this month in the journal Geriatrics that followed more than 11,000 seniors for about a decade. They gauged mental and physical health with a common cognitive exam that tests short-term memory and math skills, as well as a simple walking test. Walking engages cardiovascular, sensory, nervous, and musculoskeletal systems. A slower gait, typically less than about 4 feet a second, can indicate underlying health issues. In the end, more than 45% of the participants showed improvement in their thinking skills and or walking speed over time. Improvement was more likely among those with positive attitudes about their aging. Pete, as our wives have told our friends legendarily, you and I are prime candidates for Walmart greeters. Walmart's aggressively recruiting us. And I walk my 10,000 steps a day largely at Walmart. Pete, what is it about walking and attitude? Opine here. Does that really help?
Well, it makes sense that it's attitude. That's a big component. Imagine if we were always positive and always happy to get up in the morning. How can that not affect things? And when you have a more positive attitude, it's also going to help you give you more energy, not only mentally, but I also believe physically. And certainly it's important to always stay moving. It's really important to stay moving. There's nothing, as we get older and elderly people, they get an injury and then they stop moving. It's really hard to get going again. But also one thing that study didn't mention was your social connections.
Talk about that a little bit, Pete. Talk about that. Dr. Tinsman, talk about that.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen, I was reading something, it came out of Europe, maybe Greece, Italy, saying that they thought the most important thing for longevity was your social connections, and saying, hey, I'm getting up and, I'm going to go, meet the guys, at, the Casey's gas station for coffee, sort of a thing, Heather always tells me, she goes, you ought to go to the feed store that's down the road and sit there with the farmers and, because they just will sit on the stools and, at the implement dealer, they've got these stools set out when I take my tractor in to get, repaired. And there's guys always sitting there talking and they got a coffee pot there. And so I think attitude, yes. I think always staying mobile is really important. But I think it's also social connections. And, I looked at, you could talk about elderly people that are going in like, oh, maybe they got to go in assisted living. They need a little extra help or something. And then you look at, well, maybe we can get help brought into the home. The children say, oh, maybe we can have, a visiting nurse sort of thing come into the home, like a company like Home Instead or Visiting Angels.
Right.
But if there aren't the other people that they're seeing, if they're just in their house all by themselves and not seeing anybody else and not being social, then I'm not overly convinced that's good for them, emotionally. I think they have to have that emotional connection. So I think attitude, remaining physically active and walking, what a great way to do it. I walk about an hour and a half every night before I go to bed.
Pete, I do the same. Not before I go to bed necessarily, but I literally try to get in those 10,000 daily steps, sometimes on the trail. We have the great Prairie Spirit Trail here, which runs through these Kansas counties. We also, the campus, the Ottawa campus, beautiful campus. I walk that when weather's good. I love walking in Walmart because I know folks there. They know me. I get asked now where, stuff is in what aisle. So they say, why don't you just work there I said, why don't you just work here and get paid to walk, And, but I think it's true, for my wife, the socialization with the grandkids is everything.
Yeah.
Pete, for me, I'm such an extrovert. I literally, at 6:00 at night, can be physically and mentally exhausted to where I'll tell Deb, I don't think I can answer the bell. We got an event tonight. And Pete, we'll get to that event. And by the time we leave at 10:00 at night, I am wired. I am jazzed. I feed off that energy as an extrovert. Isn't that weird how sometimes the personality says it's about your networking, but with Deb, she doesn't need a crowd. She needs 4 grandkids. You know me, I've been in elective office. I've done some things, civically. I enjoy the large mix with people.
Yeah. And I'm kind of I'm like you. I can be exhausted. Like we went to a party. What day is it today? Yeah. So it's Sunday. Yeah. See, when you're retired, every day's Saturday or Sunday. Yeah. We're at a party. I'm just trying to think, when were we there? It might have been Thursday. I can't even remember.
That's a short-term memory. That's a short-term memory.
It's just kind of like, oh, geez, they happen all the time. But I had no desire to go. I was tired. And it's just kind of like, I hadn't slept well the night before. And went, and here I'm meeting new people. I'd never, walked into this party. There's like 70 people there. And I only knew probably 12. But it was really nice meeting new people and this or that. And and Heather's at 10:15 says, let's go home. I'm like, do we have to? And so I was ready to stay because I kind of need that energy too. I don't like lots of people all the time, but because sometimes, people, they start talking and breathing and that kind of turns you off.
Well, Pete, Deb and I on Friday night did a quick cameo run. We left about 3:00 up to Omaha at the Livestock Exchange building there for a big banquet of Life Runners, liferunners.org, which sponsors some of our programming here. They also do a lot of their running and walking events culminate in Atchison, just down the road here at Benedictine College. And they're a great pro-life organization run by the great American military veteran, Dr. Patrick Castle. They basically help expectant mothers and their babies both before and after birth. They're international. They're just a great group. We were up there for the banquet, and then literally we were there for 2 hours, and at 8:45 we got back in the car and did the 3.5-hour jaunt back here. Got in about midnight. The dogs were glad to see us. Pete, I saw maybe 10 people there that I hadn't seen in years. And it was so incredibly great to connect with people that I haven't seen in years. It was like a reunion, an old home week. It was spontaneous and just a shot in the arm for both Deb and me. And it's amazing how those touches can, I don't know if it's dopamine or endorphins. I think I'm a person that always has to be engaged to kind of get that positive energy, but it can be there with those social contexts. And I think that's why involvement in church or synagogue are so important for people. It's the contact with the good Lord, but it's also the contact with a circle of like-minded friends that are arcing toward goodness, what's good and beautiful and true and unifying.
Yeah, no, you're right. And it's, I think about just, me personally, I don't feel like going out, it's like, I'm really not in the mood. And maybe it's more of a down day, and you don't do anything and you just kind of stay down. And I think we do better. It's like, okay, think about how things were the last time you exposed yourself to people, and it's like, oh yeah, that was good. I had a good time. And I would say to people, then push yourself out through that grayness that you're having and put yourself in a place where you can interact with people to kind of help bring yourself up and, improve your mood, improve your attitude,
And figure out the vibe or the zeitgeist that relates to you. I mean, my bride, Deborah Jean, who I have known for 44 years, she is happy in a dim room with one little light bulb on, reading her books. And
John, she has one little dim light bulb on because you won't let her spend any money on electricity. Let's just call that. Let's just be honest about that. And I bet you
might very well think that. You might very well think that I can't possibly comment.
Yeah. Says the
But,
guy
Pete,
who would put 50 cents of gas in his car at a time when we were in college.
hey, I would take Deb to the car wash, which was the sprinklers on the lawns in Regency. I would drive up the one side of the street till the sprinklers sprayed on my car along the curb. Then I would go on the other side of the street and let those sprinklers spray on the other side of my car along the curb. I had a book of $1 dates. Remember, Pete?
Mm-hmm.
Pete. But I'm a light and color guy, Pete. I like bright light. I like sunlight. I like noise. I like music. And so I'm wired a little bit differently, but I've always thought maybe I have some sort of seasonally affected disorder, because if it's gray for a full week and rainy and I don't see the sun, my body is saying, need vitamin D, need that sun. Is that a thing?
Oh, absolutely. I absolutely have seasonal affective disorder. I know I do. Yeah. And, I start not doing well come early November. And then when you get to mid-February, it's like, oh, this is so much better. I think that's it. Yeah, that's really important. I think the sunlight, absolutely. It affects. Now, my wife, she could be gray and cloudy every day and she wouldn't care. My two boys could be gray and cloudy every day, but myself and my
Deb
two
is
daughters.
the same. Deb could live in Seattle or Portland permanently. She loves that weather. She loves a gray, dank day. I can see her in Dr. Zhivago enjoying the frozen tundra of Siberia.
Yeah, no, I can't do that. Yeah.
So we've jokingly said, should we someday go to Florida and retire? But it's also, we're talking health here. She and I both have allergies. Of course, in Kansas here, there are new plants and new bugs that I have never seen down here, including that brown recluse spider, which isn't an automatic trip to the ER if you get bit by one of those. But I'm thinking, right, Deb and I should probably move north, because we would be escaping all of the seasonal allergies. I think Deb, she did that Jesuit Volunteer Corps year in Montana. She loved to live up north.
Wait a minute, how can you escape seasonal allergies living up north? You're going to have your pollen season. You're going to have ragweed.
Yeah, it's just shorter.
You think, that's what you're saying, shorter? Yeah. There's definitely allergies down here in Florida. The palm trees, they blow their pollen certain times of the year. The oak trees that are here, same thing. But
now a question some Kansas friends have. We talk about stuff like this. Pete, what's the scoop? When my mom was down there, I was worried about her. Do these alligators or crocodiles come out of ponds and just start eating old ladies when they're walking along the golf course or the beach? How big of a problem is this? Or is
interesting.
This just worry wart? Yeah.
Interesting. You should ask that question. I was out to dinner on Friday night with about 12 of us that went out, and one of my friends who's from Philadelphia says, "Okay, here's a question for y'all. How many people die in America every year from alligator attacks?" And I said, "Is this real?" He goes, "This is a real question. How many people per year are killed by alligators in the United States?" Do you want to take a guess at that one?
A dozen. I'll go a dozen.
0.5.
Oh, wow. I was still 3 standard deviations away from the mean. So I'm in as I tell my class, I have a p-value that is less than 0.05. Then I reject the null hypothesis.
So you're insignificant. So So I guessed 1. You don't hear it very often that people die of alligators.
I suppose there's more lightning strikes, seriously.
I'm sure. Absolutely. People die of lightning strikes. Yeah, absolutely.
But then again, how many shark fatalities were there in 1974 when
Jaws came out?
When Jaws came out and Spielberg freaked everybody out to even get afraid going into the bathtub, for crying out loud, or flushing the toilet and not putting the lid down.
I guess, we could always we just ask ChatGPT that question.
See, this is where my great engineer, Sean Torres, he's such a AI wizard. Sean's going to be up at the Iowa Broadcast News Association on April 18 at the Stony Creek Inn in the Des Moines Metro. They're talking to all the brilliant people about how we use AI, even in radio. Some lawyers are going to be there talking about how to use AI in law. And Pete, you're using it.
It's right. And so I said, ask ChatGPT. So I just muted myself. And in 1974, there were 16 recorded fatalities worldwide from shark attacks. But Jaws came out. Jaws came out, and you were afraid to go in the city pool. because you thought a shark
Absolutely
was
true.
or in a lake. Oh, geez, here I'm in this lake in Kansas or Nebraska, and it's swimming in an old quarry. Well, what's down there that's going to eat me? Huh?
Yeah, I was afraid. I saw a movie that made me afraid to go into the water. When I saw Caddyshack and they threw that baby Ruth in the pool, I was afraid to go into a municipal pool for a year or two after that.
Okay, John. So this is where you segue into how you've met Lacey Underalls.
Oh, yes. A great
What's her name? What's her name? What's her real name?
Her real name, Chat GPT that, because she sadly passed away just a year or two ago. And she was a great patriotic woman. Her dad was a great Polish Catholic war veteran, and she did a great deal of fundraising, particularly around 9/11 for our injured warriors and our injured troops. She was a very nice lady. Came up to Omaha for the Bruce Crawford charity event.
And she was portrayed by Cindy Morgan.
Yes, I met Cindy, lovely lady, and she was like a mechanical engineer. She was a brilliant, like IQ of 170.
Oh,
now,
really?
Granted, she was beautiful in her bikini jumping off the diving board in Caddyshack, but in real life, she was a Polish Catholic intellectual mathematician who fundraised for our American veterans. Sadly, she passed away in her early 70s a few years ago, but couldn't have been more gracious. And Pete, this comes back again to all of, my childhood. I mean, all these athletes now that are gone. And I did a presentation yesterday on great Major League Baseball players that have done cameos in American television series. And we've still got Keith Hernandez with us from that famous Seinfeld episode of the double spitter on the grassy knoll, the allegory, the JFK theories, and who spit on Kramer and Newman because they were heckling Keith Hernandez and Mattingly. And, it's so funny. That is over a third of a century ago when that was taped for Seinfeld. And Keith Hernandez says he's still getting $5,000 a year in royalties just for that 30-second cameo, basically. But all these other guys are gone. I watched Mr. Belvedere. I screened that. Bob Uecker gone, Mickey Mantle gone, Harmon Killebrew, Willie Mays, Ernie Banks. We've still got Johnny Bench. I think Johnny was the only one left that was there. They brought back all of those greats. And so, Pete, we are those old guys now. And, I thought about this the other day because I'm an Iowa Hawkeye Law alum, and Iowa is back in the Elite Eight. But Pete, the last time they were in the Elite Eight was the year you and Heather got married.
Was it 90? Was it 99?
Well, that was when they got the Sweet 16.
16. Oh, so the Elite Eight was
the Elite Eight was 87. 87, yeah. And then before that year that we were freshmen in college, Iowa went to the Final Four with Lute Olson as coach and Ronnie Lester. Well, what's interesting is Iowa has gone to the Final Four twice before that. Once in 1956, once in 1955. My mom was at the University of Iowa beginning in 1955. She, thanks be to God, she'll be 90 years old this August if all goes well. But Pete, think of that. She's been an Iowa alum for basically 70 years and has seen all of those teams since the beginning. It's really incredible when you think about just how time spans and how some still are here who can trace back quite a ways.
That is. I was just thinking about when you were talking about that. How would you have liked to have lived in Lincoln the other night on Thursday? How would you like to have lived in Lincoln, Nebraska on that night?
Well, we are a divided house here, and Deb is a big Husker fan.
Well, I know, but so was she depressed?
There was a sleeping bag for me out on the back porch, and when it dropped below 35 degrees, I said, let me in. She said, you have to say, go Big Red loud enough to wake up the neighbors, and I'll let you in.
Yeah. Well, I'm really surprised that Iowa pulled that one off.
Oh, so am I. I was watching it with some fellow academics including from Lincoln and Omaha and Iowa State, Ames people, and there were several Hawkeye alums. And yeah, we were astonished because Iowa State led that entire game.
Iowa led that game. Are you saying about Iowa or Iowa State?
I'm sorry.
Iowa State lost on Friday night.
Right. But I meant Nebraska led that entire game over Iowa up until a minute left.
Yeah, Yeah, we were at a party. Speaking of social things, I mean, this has to do. Sorry, my brain is just bouncing around. It's a little bit of
Hey, that's why you're
ADHD
listening
kicking
to
in.
Boomer Takes. That's why you're
Yeah.
listening to Boomer Takes with Pete and Jake, the show you're listening to on KOFO 1220 1037. John Jacobson here with Dr. Peter Tinsman. Wax eloquently, Peter, back to you.
Geez, now I forgot what I was going to say. No, so
You were at a party. You were at a party watching this game.
Thursday. We're at this party, and I don't know if anybody's ever seen this, but we were talking about getting out there and social and whatnot. So we're going to go back to what we were. Okay. Ever been to these parties? Everybody wears headphones, and so everybody's wearing these headphones, over-ear headphones, and there are 3 separate channels for playing like country music, rock, pop is what they played. And so there's 77 people, and you put these headphones on, and like country, let's say that makes your headphones now, you have a green light on, and rock, you have red, and pop music, maybe you got a blue light on. And so these people, you can't hear any music, but you have these people, they start going together in groups and start dancing, and they're kind of singing out loud. I mean, it was very interesting. I've never seen anything like it. I don't know what it's called, but it was a lot of fun. Usually people are leaving parties, I don't know, 8:30, 8:45 to go home to get in bed, walk the dog and stuff. People stay till about midnight because everybody's having so much fun. I mean, I don't know what it's called, but if somebody's thinking about what would be something kind of fun to do, I thought it was going to be kind of dumb and ridiculous. And it's like, I'm not doing that. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going. Well, I'm glad I went.
Here with Dr. Peter Tinsman. I love Pete because he's such a positive guy. Pete, I want you to circle back the article that Jen Christensen did for CNN. She says, why a positive attitude affects aging isn't explained in the latest study. Earlier research shows that people who are more positive about aging have increased self-confidence about their thinking, and that alone can improve memory and general cognitive skills. Positive thinking also tends to make people more resilient. Positive people also tend to be more social, and studies show that healthy connections keep people healthier overall. Another practical reason why positivity may help with aging well, people who remain positive are more likely to use preventive health services, a 2014 study found. Hall agrees that positivity works, and so does being proactive about the doctor. You keep those appointments, you stay tuned into your health and address it, and it gets better, Hall said.
I think you also have to be aware that sometimes there's something called toxic positivity.
Well, let's talk about that too for a second. Yeah.
Where somebody is just unbelievably positive all the time,
Well, Deb and I have this conversation. She says I'm a downer. I'm Debbie Downer and negative all the time. And I say, I'm just a realist.
Well, that's what Heather says about me. And I say, I'm just a realist. But
I say niceness is overrated. I tell her niceness is overrated.
Yeah. When you're around somebody who's, how was that? Oh my God, it was fantastic. It was amazing. It was the best ever. This or that. Oh, this is great. And there's never everything. That isn't really a true reality of life, because everything isn't always perfect. Everything isn't always wonderful, great, and amazing.
Right.
And it is okay to say, when somebody says, so how was the party where you had the headphones on listening to music? It's okay to say, it was kind of weird. I don't think I ever want to do that again. I mean, there's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with that, because you don't.
Totally agree.
Yeah, and so sometimes people who are toxic have too much positivity, or being toxic, being overly toxic.
No, I agree.
I know. I'm just trying to figure it out. If you're just overly positive in a toxic way, then that can make you feel bad about yourself.
Well, I think it's toxic precisely because it diminishes the reality of conflict out there in the battle of good versus evil, and it negates the fact that we are in a battle of good versus evil at every level of our lives, and that if you spin too much Pollyannish, then you're never realizing that you have to confront an Adolf Hitler or a Mao Zedong or a regime in Tehran. And it's like every John Wayne movie directed by John Ford, the theme was, it always takes an unpleasant and nasty person to come in and be the hero and do the dirty work that nobody else wants to do, and no one else has the courage to do or the moral fiber to do. And yet that very person who's the mean guy who gets rid of the bad guys is then too vulgar or
Are you
too
referring to anybody?
unpolished.
Are you referring to anybody specifically?
I am. I think Donald Trump is our Tom Donovan. I think he's our Ethan Edwards. He's our John Wayne character in every John Ford directed movie, that he is the necessary hero to come in and take on the bad guys because no one else has the guts to do it. He is the Winston Churchill alone in the wilderness, the 1930s, standing alone, warning about Hitler when everybody else tried to appease Hitler.
Did you see, there was an interview with Trump, had been the past week. He was asked by a reporter. Reporter said, is it true that you talked to a former president about what happened with Iran? And he was like, yes. And they asked who it was. And he goes, well, it wasn't George Bush. So that only leaves Democrats. And he said, I'm not telling you who I talked to, but whoever I talked to said, I wish I would have had the guts to do what you did.
Pete, you and I were in school when they took our hostages 47 years ago. Guys, we didn't start the fire. You know, this started 47 years ago when
Didn't Billy Joel say that?
What's that?
Didn't Billy Joel say we didn't start the fire?
Yes, he did. Great song, great reference. But you know, if I mention that to my college kids, they barely know who Billy Joel is. That's why I'm trying to bring this back to them. I want to bring in our millennial, Sean Torres. Sean, you've had some great thoughts about building communities among these young people and the problems we have today in this high-tech age. Talk about that. Just set the table for us on that. We'll talk about this more in future episodes.
I was gonna say we could do more on the next episode too, but the main thing is, like you guys were saying or kind of alluding to, is the connection part. Like being near or around people matters. Like it makes all the difference in the world to us as being humans. Maybe there.
And you guys are all screens, and you're trying to bring them together because they're all on screens, isolated.
Exactly. Yeah, it's starting to bring people together locally instead of this mass media or mass social media that we have going on. Bringing that down to a local level like our municipalities are, essentially, and making, well, like the commons should be controlled by our people. I mean, the areas that all the people were intentionally or intended to be owned by us anyway. So, and then just bringing social media to that level, bringing it down to the municipality level, bringing it down to the local group level, so that way we're not all talking to each other halfway across the planet. Everybody you're talking to in your county or municipality or whatever local area group's social group is all people around you. You could go say hi to somebody new and be like, hey, you want to go grab a coffee? And then walk to the coffee store because you're that close to each other. And it brings us that much closer together and avoids the whole miscommunication thing. Because, I mean, you get East Coast, West Coast, they use different language. We all use different proper nouns. And then there's that misunderstanding that happens, and there's no real place to resolve conflict on written social media, especially when everybody's screaming at each other. You just become, codified or hardened to whatever your beliefs are because it's too loud anyway. There's no room for a discussion.
Dr. Tinsman, that's a pretty wise take from a young millennial, isn't it?
That's a really wise take. It really is. Yeah. Very good, Sean. Very good.
Well, I appreciate it. And yeah, just building this system out and finding some way to make it happen, basically.
Well, technology is not going to go away. All this stuff isn't going to go away.
Oh, no.
So you guys have to figure out,
So, it's just the future of America is our youth, and we're going to continue to bring Sean in as our millennial because he helps bookend. He has some very keen insights, and with teaching 140 kids a semester, my eyes have been open to a lot of things, Pete. It is a different era, truly, and I think the task for us is to stay somewhat relevant with the wisdom we have. But I noticed the gap for me as I close, the cultural touchstones are not there. I can't talk about Johnny Carson or Frank Sinatra. The highlight of my week was one of my Brazilian students, Joa Cruz Roja, won the talent contest competition to become Mr. Otter here at Ottawa University. And he won by doing a piano solo without any musical sheet music. He's from Brazil, and he played Misty that Johnny Mathis made famous in 1959. And no one knew what he was playing, but he won. It was so good. And I went up to him afterwards, took a picture. I said, I can't believe, where did you find Misty by Johnny Mathis? He says, oh, Professor Jacobson, it's a classic. I said, you warmed my heart. I said, no one in this university, your age, knows who Johnny Mathis knows the song Misty. But we got to make those connections and keep those cultural sinews still attached, Pete, with our young people.
Oh, absolutely. And that's great that he won. That's fantastic. I think that's absolutely fantastic.
And we had another kid who is a power lifter who has a great country music voice. And I thought, hey, country music still alive and well with these young peeps too. So, well, my goodness, guys, we did an hour. So Sean's going to turn this into a great 2-part episode, Pete. What do you think?
I think that's a fantastic idea.
So before we leave, Pete, I want to tell you, I hope you and Heather have a great Holy Week.
And I feel like I'm clinging to a cloud. I can't understand. I get misty just holding your hand.
Now you're warming Mrs. Jacobson's heart because she loves Johnny Mathis.
So I hope you have a great Holy Week as well. Hope everybody else does. And let's not forget the real meaning of what Easter's all about. This is a great week for us.
It is. We remember Jesus Christ, our Lord, our Savior, and our God, entering into his passion, suffering, death for his resurrection and the conquering of sin and death and the restoration of all of us if we love Jesus, to enter into eternal life with him. That's my bucket list. That's the only thing that counts. And I thank Jesus for his tender mercies towards me, a sinner, and for all of his blessings, including the lovely and gracious Deborah. Happy birthday to Heather, Pete. We'll be back next week for our Easter Sunday special. John Jacobson with Dr. Peter W. Tinsman and the great Sean Torres saying, be safe, be smart, be good, be strong, love, and thank Jesus Christ. God bless us, everyone. And catch that podcast, as always, on KOFO. Thanks to Sean getting those up. We'll be back, God willing, next week. Bye-bye.